The storm came out of nowhere. Not a gradual build of wind and rain, just instant chaos. 1 second, the Odyssey Blue was gliding across calm Caribbean waters under a pastel sky. The next, it was fighting waves taller than houses. Ethan Cole gripped the railing, knuckles white, as the yacht tilted hard to starboard. Lightning split the sky in jagged, blinding lines. His shirt clung to his skin, soaked through by salt and fear. "Kill the engines." Captain Hensley shouted over the roar. "They're flooded," one of the crew yelled back. Ethan wasn't supposed to be there. He was an architect, not a sailor. The trip was a corporate retreat, 5 executives, a crew of 4, and 1 expensive mistake. The weather radar had shown clear skies for 200 miles. The storm wasn't supposed to exist. But then again, nothing about the Bermuda Triangle ever made sense. The waves kept coming, black and merciless. Hensley barked orders as the yacht groaned like a dying creature. The mast snapped, crashing across the deck. Someone screamed. Then the world flipped upside down. Water. Everywhere. Cold. Violent. Endless. Ethan gasped as the sea swallowed him whole. The current spun him, dragged him down, ripped at his limbs. He kicked, clawed upward, lungs burning until his head broke the surface. "Help!" he shouted, but the storm swallowed his voice. The Odyssey Blue was gone. Only debris floated in the chaos, wood, luggage, a single life ring tumbling in the foam. He swam. He didn't know where, only that stopping meant dying. Hours, or maybe minutes, blurred together in the black churn until finally, stillness. He woke on sand. The morning sun seared his eyelids as gulls circled overhead. For a long time Ethan didn't move. He just lay there, tasting salt and blood, hearing the lazy roll of distant waves. When he finally sat up, he saw it. An island. Palm trees, jagged cliffs, dense green jungle. No footprints but his. He tried his radio. Nothing but static. His phone was dead. His wristwatch, cracked and still ticking, read 3:17 a.m., but the sun was already up. He stood, shaky but alive, and took in his surroundings. The beach curved like a crescent, littered with wreckage. A nameplate half buried in the sand read Odyssey Blue. His stomach twisted. "Anyone?" he called out. "Captain Hensley? Laura? Jason?" Only the wind answered. He searched the shoreline for hours. No bodies. No survivors. No footprints. Just silence. When the sun started to dip again, he found something strange. A cluster of bones near the tree line. Human but old. Half buried, bleached white by time. Nearby lay a rusted compass, its needle spinning wildly. Ethan picked it up and frowned. It didn't point north. It didn't point anywhere. That night he built a fire from driftwood. He didn't know how to start one properly, but panic was a good teacher. The crackle of flames was the first comforting sound he'd heard in a day. He watched the horizon for lights. Boats, planes, anything. But the sky stayed empty. He counted stars, then lost track. When he finally closed his eyes, sleep came hard and jagged. And then voices. He jolted awake. They were faint, carried by the wind. "Over here, help." He ran toward the sound, stumbling through sand and brush. His flashlight flickered, catching glimpses of faces, his coworkers, drenched and pale. "Lara," he cried, grabbing her arm. But his hand passed through her. She dissolved like mist. He froze. The voices stopped. Only the surf remained. He didn't sleep again that night. By the 3rd day, Ethan stopped yelling for help. His body ached. His lips cracked. His mind started to fray. The island wasn't normal. There were moments when the jungle seemed to breathe, when the air shimmered like heat over asphalt. He found a freshwater stream, and beside it, a watch. A diver's watch, crusted with salt and coral, but still ticking. The backplate bore a name, Lieutenant Marcus Hale, U.S. Navy. 1968. Ethan stared at it. That couldn't be right. He pocketed the watch and kept walking. By midday he reached a clearing and froze. A camp. Tents. A fire pit. Tools. Everything looked recently used, but there were no people. He stepped closer. A metal mug still steamed. "Hello," he said cautiously. Something moved inside one of the tents. Ethan grabbed a stick and pulled back the flap. Inside sat a man, skin tanned like leather, beard to his chest, eyes sharp but distant. The stranger didn't flinch. He just looked up and said, "You're new." His name was Jonas. Or at least that's what he called himself. He said he'd been there for 12 years. Ethan didn't believe him until he saw the tattoos. 12 tally marks carved into his arm with something sharp. "No one gets off this island," Jonas said, stirring a pot of something that smelled like boiled roots. "Not unless the island lets you." Ethan frowned. What does that mean? Jonas smiled, a cracked, weary smile. You'll see. He told Ethan about the others, sailors, pilots, fishermen. All lost to the Devil's Triangle. Some washed up here and vanished within days. The island keeps what it wants, Jonas said. And it always wants something. Ethan listened, skeptical but uneasy. That night, they shared a meal of roasted crab and rainwater. Jonas stared into the fire, muttering like he was reciting a prayer. Ethan finally asked, You ever try to leave? Every day for the first year, Jonas said. Then I stopped trying. Why? Jonas pointed toward the horizon. Because the sea brings you back. Ethan thought he was joking, until the next morning. They built a raft together, 2 logs lashed with rope, a makeshift sail from torn fabric. Ethan insisted they could ride the current east. Jonas didn't argue. He just watched, quiet and detached. They pushed off at dawn. The water was calm, the wind light. After 3 hours, the island was a smudge on the horizon. Ethan smiled for the first time in days. Then a wall of fog rolled in. Thick, cold, silent. He couldn't see 10 feet ahead. The compass spun uselessly in his hand. When the fog lifted, his heart stopped. They were back on the same beach they'd left from. The raft scraped against the sand like it had never moved. Ethan turned to Jonas. How? Jonas just shrugged. Told you. The sea brings you back. Days turned into weeks. Ethan marked them on a piece of driftwood, but time stopped feeling real. He hunted with Jonas, learned which fruits wouldn't kill him, built a shelter from palm trunks. But the whispers didn't stop. Sometimes he heard his name in the wind. Other times, laughter, his co-workers' voices, echoing from nowhere. One night, he dreamed of Lara again. She stood at the water's edge, smiling sadly. Why you? She asked. Then she was gone. The next morning, Jonas was missing. Ethan searched the entire island. No footprints. No signs of struggle. Just the old man's necklace hanging from a tree branch. He was alone again. Weeks later, Ethan found something buried near the stream, a rusted camera sealed in a waterproof case. He cleaned it, managed to power it on with a solar charger from the wreck. There were photos, grainy, faded, but clear enough. People. Different years. Dozens of them, all standing on the same beach he had woken up on. Each group smiled for the camera. None of them looked afraid. The last photo was of Jonas. He was younger, cleaner, standing beside a man who looked exactly like Ethan. Ethan dropped the camera. His pulse thundered. It had to be a trick, a coincidence. But deep down, something inside him cracked open. That night he couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire, staring at the photo, at the impossible familiarity of his own face frozen in time. Who are you? He whispered to himself. A voice answered. Not from the jungle. From behind him. I've been waiting for you. Ethan spun around. Jonas stood there, alive, but different. His eyes glowed faintly, like reflected moonlight. You left, Ethan said. Jonas shook his head. I never left. I changed. He stepped closer. You will too. Ethan backed away. You're not real. Jonas smiled. Neither are you. Not anymore. The fire flickered. The air warped. The jungle seemed to breathe again. And suddenly Ethan remembered things he shouldn't have known. Faces, storms, shipwrecks from decades before. He saw himself dying on the Odyssey Blue, lungs full of seawater. The island hadn't saved him. It had kept him. He ran, through trees that bent like shadows, past the bones on the beach, toward the sea that glowed faintly under the moon. Let me go, he shouted into the waves. The water shimmered, and a voice rose from it, familiar and endless. You all ask that, it said. But you never mean it. Ethan dropped to his knees, shaking. He realized then that the island wasn't a place. It was a boundary. A waiting room between life and death. And Jonas hadn't been a man. He'd been what the island made of those who stayed too long. Days or years passed. Time lost its shape. Ethan stopped counting. He stopped sleeping. Sometimes he saw new faces on the beach, fresh survivors crawling from the sea, coughing salt water. He tried to warn them, but his voice came out hollow. They looked right through him, just like he had looked through Lara. And then he understood. He wasn't the survivor. He was the ghost. The next morning, the horizon glowed orange. A yacht cut through the mist, a new one, modern and sleek, filled with laughter. Ethan stood on the shore, invisible to them. He whispered, "Turn back." But the sea didn't listen. It never did. As the vessel neared the island, lightning split the sky. And somewhere in the fog, a new voice began to scream. Ethan turned away, walking back into the jungle that was now his home. The island whispered his name like a promise. A cycle, eternal and merciless. Because no one ever really leaves. Not from the island of no return. They say the Devil's Triangle hides secrets the ocean won't give back. But maybe it's not a place at all. Maybe it's a mirror, showing us what we fear most, being forgotten. Ethan Cole thought he survived. But some storms don't kill you. They keep you. If this story left you thinking, share it with someone who needs to remember. Survival isn't always the same as living. Subscribe for more stories that blur the line between mystery and truth. Because sometimes, the scariest part isn't the ocean. It's what waits when the waves go quiet.